And Shaul would go often into cities and he wouldn't be able to do many miracles or healings. He couldn't do much in Athens. There's not very much record of healings at Corinth, where he spent so much time. And Rav Shaul was debating in the shul every Shabbat and was convincing the Yahudim and the Greeks. What sort of Greeks were they? They were Yah-fearing Greeks that would come to the synagogue. They made it their custom to come to the synagogue. They were Noahide keepers. They kept the 7 Noahide laws. This meant they could hang around with the Jews. If you don't at least keep the 7 Noahide laws, you can't even eat with a Jew. The tax collectors and the sinners that Yeshua was hanging around. Here's a bit of a newsflash. They were all Jews. They were still tax collectors and prostitutes, but they were Jews, weren't they? It's interesting, isn't it? Shaul continues his pattern of going to synagogues and the Jews first. Remember? You shall go to the Jew first. So when Shaul turns up to a new town, where does he go? The synagogue. If the town doesn't have a synagogue, where does he go? The river. Because there's usually people doing mikvah, doing water immersion, doing baptism there, yeah? Now when both Silas, that's Luke, and Timothy came down from Macedonia, Rav Shaul was preoccupied and totally absorbed with the word of Yahweh, bearing solemn testimony to the Jews that Yeshua is the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, is King Messiah Yeshua. Rabbi Shaul wrote in 1 Thessalonians shortly after Rabbi Silas and Timothy arrived, bringing both good news about the money from the infant Macedonian congregations. Now, this is interesting. The Macedonian congregations were about our size. Yeah, they raised up the most money. Isn't that interesting? So they may have had few people, but the people that were attending raised enough money that as soon as Silas and Timothy turned up, Shaul didn't have to make tents anymore. He could really now focus in on the ministry. In 1 Thessalonians 3, 6, 7, Rabbi Shaul writes, "But now that Timothy has come to us from you and brought us good news of your faith," and why does he say that? Because of the outpouring that it's resulted in with the giving of their offerings and love, and that always you have good remembrance of us, greatly desiring to see us, as we also to you. Therefore, brethren, in all our affliction and distress, we were comforted concerning you by faith. Rabbi Shaul later writes to the Corinthians concerning the financial support Rabbi Silas and Timothy brought. "And when I was present with you and in need, I was a burden to no one, for what I lacked, the brethren who came from Macedonia supplied. And in everything I kept myself from being burdensome to you, and so I will keep myself." 2 Corinthians 11 and 9. The offering from the Macedonians was large enough to allow Rabbi Shaul to give all his time to the ministry. The New International Version renders Acts 18:5, "When Rabbi Silas, Luke, and Timothy came from Macedonia, Rabbi Shaul devoted himself exclusively to preaching, testifying to the Jews that Yeshua was the Messiah." And it was a drush. Earlier on today, we had David mention a drush. Some of you might have gone, "What's a drush?" A drush is when you take a piece of scripture and it's got one meaning and you go in a little bit deeper and there's a deeper meaning to it. I gave you a drush today when I talked about the Amalekites. I'll say that again. I gave you all a drush today when I spoke about the Amalekites attacking from the rear. We went deeper with that, didn't we? That's a drush. What was your drush?
Amalek, battling Amalek right until Mashiach comes.
Yeah. And so he basically talked about the same thing, but went into a little bit more emphasis about the duration of the battle. Yeah, it's going to keep.
Israel will be at war with the Muslims right until Mashiach.
And that should be the way. Because if it isn't the way, then Mashiach might not have to come because we can do peace on our own. We can't. We need Mashiach. We need Messiah now. So Rav Shaul left them and entered the house of a certain man by the name of Titus Justus, a Yah-fearer. That means he was a Gentile who converted to the faith, whose house was right next door to the shul, the synagogue. This is amazing. So he gets rejected in the synagogue. He finds one guy that was in that congregation who lives next door, and he goes next door. And then when he goes next door, watch what happens. And Rabbi Crispus, the Rosh Beit Knesset, the president or the head of the Sanhedrin, the head of the synagogue, wait till you read this. This will blow your socks off. He came to faith in Rebbe Melech HaMashiach Adonai, our Rebbe King Messiah Yeshua or Yahweh, along with his entire house. Also many of the Corinthians, both Jews and Gentile, who heard, came to faith and were being given Mashiach's immersion of repentance. So what happened?
Shaul's gone next door. He's taken one guy with him that lives next door. The guy, you don't want me, so I'll go next door. The head of the synagogue, after he's left, has gone, you know what, I think that guy's got a few points. I'm joining him. He walks out and he takes with him another whole smattering of the congregation. And so the guys that are left there, you can imagine, they're pretty livid. So he's caused like such an obvious instantaneous division. And of all places, it's right next door. That's just amazing, just an amazing turn of events. But watch what happens. It was interesting that Kav, who was ruler of the synagogue, did not believe the Messiah at all after Rabbi Shaul left the synagogue. So when Rabbi Shaul left the synagogue, so did their rabbi Crispus and his family. Verse 9. Then in the middle of the night, through a vision, which Rabbi Shaul has at each crisis in his life, if you've noticed that, as though he keeps reliving his Damascus experience. Remember his experience at Damascus? That continues on throughout his life. There you go, another drush there. So if we're going to walk in Shaul's footsteps, who walks in Messiah, we're going to continue to have the same experience of freshness of revelation that we've had when we came. If we walk with him upright, we won't ever stagnate. Adonai here refers to Rebbe Yeshua. So I said Yahweh a few verses back, but I meant to say Yeshua. Said to Rav Shaul, do not fear, but speak out and do not keep silent. So Yeshua is appearing to Shaul in a vision. He needs to encourage him because Shaul is feeling a little afraid at this point. For I am with you, because he's going, I'm going to get stoned. I have caused the most obvious, quickest division in any congregation that I've ever gone and spoken in. These guys are going to want blood. They're not going to just see my limp body and be satisfied that they've killed me. These guys are going to probably want to, draw and quarter me. So he needs encouragement at this point. So Yeshua makes a visitation and actually appears to him. And by the way, if you say you're a shliach, which somebody told me he was, and from him he asks, by whose authority do you guys set up a bet din? I'm thinking, well, you just told me you were a shliach. The only way you can be an apostle is if you have a personal visit by King Messiah Yeshua in the flesh or in a vision. And then you have to have somebody come along to corroborate that. What is the highest office?
Mashiach.
No, earthly office that we can attain. What is the highest office?
Kohen Hagadol.
No.
What?
The highest office that we can attain. Not talking about the priestly office. Can we just for the second, push them to the side? The highest office you can attain is shliach. That's above rabbi. That's above teacher. Shliach. Because why? A shliach is a rabbi and a teacher, all of those things. He is all in all. He has to know everything. Because he's going and he's setting up communities. So he needs to know everything. A rabbi or a teacher can specialize a little bit more. So the highest office outside of the priesthood you can attain is shliach. Why aren't we seeing teachings, call no man shliach? Why aren't we seeing teachings, call no man apostle? Why aren't we seeing teachings, call no man bookkeeper? It's interesting, isn't it? We're getting criticism and we're not even going straight for the jugular on that. But the ones that are criticising us, they're telling us they're shliachs. And we're not even saying we're apostles. We even hesitate to call ourselves rabbis, don't we, Bruce? And that's not because we're against rabbis. We just know what a rabbi has to have. You don't need me to read you all that. You know what's happening. And Rav Shaul sat a year and 6 months saying teachings, all things Messiah commanded him to teach, to them on the word of Yahweh. Okay. After this, it seems many common people in Corinth joined the ranks of the believers. Rabbi Shaul later writes to the Corinthians, and this is in 1 Corinthians 1, 26 to 29, for you see your calling, brethren, that not many wise according to the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. But Yahweh has chosen the foolish things of the word to put to shame the wise, and Yahweh has chosen the weak things of the world to put to shame the things which are mighty, and the base things of the world and the things which are despised Yahweh has chosen, and the things which are not, to bring to nothing the things that are, that no flesh should glory in his presence. People, listen, I have a pretty checkered past. When I was a Christian, I was just kind of going through the motions. I was what you call an armchair Christian. I always looked at other people and go, they're heaps better than me. And I knew they were. And before that, I lived a pretty rough life. I don't know why I got commandeered. You think you might have found God. You haven't. He commandeers you. You don't find him. He finds you and he says, you are doing this. And you can shuck that all you want. But the gifts of and the callings of Yahweh are without revoke. So that's why you have rap artists. They're really good with lyrics. These are people that could have been psalmists. And they were given a gift to write psalms. But instead they used that gift to write rap songs. This is why you have clairvoyants and people that read tarot cards and mediums. These people that potentially could have been prophets in the faith. They've decided to go in the other direction. So the next time you see a clairvoyant or a medium, don't just stick up your nose and walk in the other direction. Look at them with a little bit of sorrow in your heart and say, man, you could have been somebody big in this faith. Instead, you chose to go in another direction. We tend to do that, don't we? We go, oh, that's satanic. That's all satanic. These people were given a gift, and they've gone in the wrong direction with their gift. He will never take his gift from you. He'll kill you, but he won't take his gift from you. And then Galileo and his brother and his brother Seneca was born in Cordova, Spain. Their father brought the family to Rome in the reign of Tiberius. Galileo's real name was Marcus Annoius Novatus, but after arriving in Rome, he was adopted out to Rhetorician, and he changed his name to Lucius Junius Galileo, shortened it to Galileo after his adoptive father. Oh, I hope you're following this because I'm not. He was charming and well known, famous for his understanding of the Greco-Roman law and fairness. He was pre-council of Achaia. The Yahudim rose up with one accord in the council in opposition to Rav Shul, and they took him to court. So this guy, he was the leader of the council in Corinth. He was a secular guy, and Jews dragged Shaul and anybody else who had sided with him before this council. So this is a secular court, saying this one persuades brothers to worship Yahweh in the manner against the Torah. And I'm not going to go through and read that because I've already talked for far too long. What's happening here? And I said this a few weeks ago, I hope you remember. Out there, the authorities, the government, and so on and so forth, they don't care that we follow somebody who's proclaiming to be the Messiah and resurrects people from the dead. They don't care about that. What they do care about is that you're going to follow somebody who's going to overthrow their government. That's why the charges that Messiah was brought up on wasn't that he was a false Messiah. The Romans couldn't care less if he was the false Messiah. They would have gone, go away. We speak to a false Messiah every day. We see them coming every day. As soon as the Jews were saying, oh, he claims to be the king of the Jews, that's when the Roman oppressors went, oh, okay, we could have a problem here, because that could cause a riot and we could be in trouble. And so that's what's happening here, but they're not going on that tack. They're saying, oh, he's not keeping the Torah. And you see him in a second, he goes, I don't care. Rav Shul was about to open his mouth when Galileo spoke to the Jews. If this matter concerns some wrong or heinous crime, O Jews, I might reasonably put up with you. But it is questions about words and names in your Torah. You will see to it for yourselves. I do not intend to be a judge of these things. And that was the right judgment he should have made, because they don't care less. Unless what you're saying is going to encroach upon their freedom and their livelihood. And none of that is. They don't care. And he had them ejected from the courtroom. They seized Rabbi Sothenus, the head, the current. Now, Rabbi Sothenus, he was the new president of the synagogue that they appointed after Crispus left to join Shaul, and they beat the snot out of him. It's a very Jewish thing. They do that. They get very zealous. And I'm not passing judgment on it. I think a few more people should be taken out and just given a size 9. I think if you could, people would be like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm gonna pull my head in. And we're beating him in full view of the judgment seat, and none of these things created concern for Galileo. He didn't care. Then they arrived in Ephesus and Rav Shaul left them there. He joined the minyan, 10 men. We don't have 10 men today. Hopefully that'll change. And the synagogue, and he debated with the Jews. So he's back debating with the Jews, verse 20. And when they were asking Rav Shaul to stay for a long time, he did not give his consent. But taking leave of them, he said, I'll return, Yah willing, I'll return again in Yitzhar Yahweh. I'll return Yah willing, yeah. Then Rav Shaul set sail for Ephesus. Having come down to Caesarea and having gone up and greeted the Jerusalem congregation of Messiah, then Rabbi Shaul went down to Antioch, where the seat of the Netzarim are, or where majority of them are, and having spent some time, he embarked, passing through the area of Galatia and Phrygia, strengthening all the Messiah's Talmudim. What does Talmudim mean? What does Talmudim mean?
Followers, students.
Disciples.
Yeah.
What does Taliban mean?
Same root
Yeah.
word.
Taliban means disciples. Yeah, it's interesting, eh? After a time in Antioch, he started out again. On his way to Ephesus, Rabbi Shaul visited the congregations he and Rabbi Ben Navi planted on their first missionary journey. What are you seeing here, guys? He's constantly going back and checking up on the congregations he planted. If you plant a congregation, it's your responsibility to go back and check up on them. Now, Bruce, can you say, honestly, that Rabbi Rob, who established this congregation, has he been coming back enough and grooming us in that time?
Maybe a bit more often all would be.
Exactly. We've kind of needed him a bit more than we should. So Rabbi Rob, back in 2001, I don't remember what it was because he first came out here when I didn't even know him. He's come out every year since. There is no other Messianic rabbi anywhere in the world that cares about believers in this part of the world than that man. His money's where his mouth is. His time is where his mouth is. However you want to phrase it, he comes down to us. He has a wife. He has his own congregation. And it's hard for him to be away from his own congregation and his wife, but he does it every year for us. Shouldn't he deserve that respect? Shouldn't he deserve the benefit of the doubt? Shouldn't he deserve maybe some offerings, maybe some money, whatever? He does it out of the goodness of his heart. He loves Yahweh and he serves him. He is a true shliach. Yeah? Amen. Having spent some time, he embarked, passing through the area of Galatia. I've read that. And now a certain man, a Jew, arrived in Ephesus, Rabbi Apollos, by name, hailing from Alexandria, from Egypt, in other words. He was a Torah scholar with prodigious knowledge, being deep and profound, erudite and keen in the Holy Scriptures. This one had been taught the way of Yahweh. This was the secret of his power and ability. He knew the Scriptures. And that's what I want to leave you with today. We need to study. You need to study. You need to get into a routine. This is how you study. Every day, you pick a time that you study. And that is a pillar of time. Don't study the Word when you've finished everything else in your life that you have to do, and now you've got spare time you're going to study. That's insulting. Structure your day that your study of the Word is the main thing, and then your rest of the day is based around that. That's respect. That's why Torah study once a week is really good. If you come to Torah study, you can stand up before the heavenly tribunal and you can say, I put Torah as a pillar in my life. I don't care if you have a lot of spare time and you're studying in that spare time, you might study 8 hours a day and that's all spare time. That's going to probably come back on your own bosom. But when you set it, this is the time I study Torah, and you do it, that's setting it as a pillar. And the rabbi began to speak with boldness in the shuls, and having heard them, Priscilla and Aquila took him and more accurately instructed in the way of Yahweh. Remember, these are Shaul's friends. When Rav Apollos decided to go to Achaia, the brothers in Messiah encouraged him and wrote letter to Messiah's disciples there to welcome him. With Rav Apollos, when Rav Apollos arrived, he greatly helped the ones who, through the grace and mercy of Yahweh, had come to faith. For Rav Apollos was publicly and powerfully refuting the Yahudim, showing through the Ketuvim, the Holy Scriptures, that Yeshua was the Rebbe King Messiah Yeshua. Now, do you remember in the New Testament, the so-called New Testament, a controversy that rose, that was being dealt with,
And some would say they were of Paul, and others would say they were from Apollos. Do you remember that? There was a controversy that rose, and Shaul addressed it like this. He says, some of you say you're of Shaul, and some of you say you're of Apollos. That's this guy we just got introduced to. So Apollos was basically, he was a pretty big heavyweight. Yeah? He may have had a different upbringing than Shaul and come from a different demographic, but he knew his scriptures, this guy. And he was very influential, nearly on par as Shaul. And so what happened was people would start to say that they were of Shaul's teachings. And then another demographic formed and they said they were of Apollos' teachings, and that was an issue. Because Shaul says, don't say you're of me or Apollos, say you're of Messiah. Because we're all meant to be imitating him, so why the division? You know? So that's another important thing to take away. I'm sorry I spoke for so long today. I know I always say that, and I always do the same thing. I'll never learn. Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Are there any statements? Does anybody want to throw anything at me? Can we have something? Rosemary?
You didn't kill us, you tried to kill us, let's see.
Yeah, that's right. But listen, those of you that are here, thank you so much. I mean what I said. The Sabbath day today is the day that Yahweh looks today. We've had a great couple of days. We've had Rabbi here, we've had heaps of people here. Now he's gone, the fun's over. Who's here now? That's important. It's important to me and it's important to Yahweh. And in the next coming weeks, who are we going to see? Hopefully we'll get a few people. I'd regularly like to see a minion here maybe in the next couple of months.
Hello.
I've got to behave myself though.
Do you know?
If I misbehave at all, it's for nothing. Yes.
Roth actually disagrees with the assumption that Shaul was made Talits.
Oh yes, go, fire away.
Roth actually says in his commentary, the Greek version says tent maker. The Peshitta version says a worker of rough cloth. So his assumption is that he was a saddle maker.
What was
The lexicon to the Syriac Peshitta text reads saddle maker, and a saddle or harness maker does not make curtains or tent cloth. That's his take.
What was Yochanan the Immerser's talit made out of?
Rough cloth.
This would have been pretty
Rough.
would have been pretty itchy. Yeah, no, it's not going to hold on. In terms of the saddle maker translation, I'd have to look at that. But just because it says rough cloth, But Tim Roth, is it Tim Roth?
Sid Roth.
Sid Roth.
Ed Roth.
Yeah,
Sid
I mean that's I like his. Can I just say something about
Andrew
you
Roth.
Andrew Roth. Chris, you're new to this walk. If you keep coming, you're going to face the issue. Oh, what Bible do I get? Don't be anxious about it. There's hundreds of Bible translations out there now. There's heaps of Bible translations out there that use the true names. At the end of the day, if you've been brought up with the King James and you know the King James like the back of your hand, my advice to you is keep bringing in the King James. Okay, so what if it doesn't have the true names? You know your way around it. If you jump to a new Sacred Name Bible, it's probably going to have different translations that you're not familiar with. It's up to you. If you haven't grafted to a particular Bible to the point where you've got hundreds of notes in it, try and grab a new Bible and get started on a new one. But there's so many translations. I'm noticing, and this is really sad, there's new translations coming out, and you can tell this is the case. The translators, and they're not even translators, can I just say, all these new Bibles that are coming out, that's a lie. They should call them annotated Bibles. Because these guys aren't actually translating from the Hebrew into English themselves. They're looking at other commentaries and other translations, and they're picking the best sentence, phrase, and structure that they like, or that they think's close to the Hebrew if they know Hebrew.
What's the most reliable
The
Torah translation?
well, I would recommend. I would personally recommend
Chumash.
if you're there's the Chumash. If you've already got a Bible you're familiar with, stick to that. The James Trim Hebrew Roots Bible is probably the best. It's a very big Bible though. The next one is the one that Bruce has got in front of him. Bruce, can you just give Chris a quick look at that? That's a very good Bible. Outside those two, there is another. You go down a rung, and I would put David's one that he's got in front of him now, but that's just the New Testament, or just the Netzerim Ketuvim. Now, if you just want to get a good Tanakh, Chris, meaning a good Old Testament, you can get the Chumash, which is not the entire Old Testament, but it's all the Torah portions. Oh, it is. No, it's all the Torah,
And half Torah.
and it's just highlights from the prophets that go with the half Torah readings, the Torah readings, and that's called the Chumash. So if you get that, because it's got good commentary, good Jewish commentary, that's a good one to start with, and either that Bible or James Trimm's Bible. You can download one electronically off the web, but if you come in here with the NIV, I'm not going to chuck stones at you. I wouldn't chuck stones at you because you'd kill me with the size of it. But yeah, I don't have hang-ups with Bibles really. Yeah, sorry.
I'm just enjoying all the words, Hebrew.
Oh, if you like the Hebrew, then there's plenty. David might be able to talk to you a bit later.
It's like learning
There's-
a whole new
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And if you're up for it, man, then come on board. Ones with good Hebrew words are the Sacred Name, True Name edition, which is by Moshe Konakowski. Probably get an earlier edition, not one of his later editions, because I don't know whether he talks about polygamy. He became pro-polygamous later on recently in his career. But his early editions of his Bible was good. It uses a lot of Hebrew words. There's the Orthodox Jewish Bible, which I have, and I'll bring it in one day and show you. It's a paperback Bible. It's only about $30. Quite affordable. A lot of Hebrew words in it. A lot. Now they're not Hebrew letters. They're in English, but they're transliterations. So if you read them, it'll sound like you're reading the Hebrew. But the one you've got in your hand there, that's got the Torah portions in it, Bruce. Yeah. So you've got the Torah portions.
Yeah, I have a list of the Torah portions.
Yeah. So that's good. Like, and that's, you can carry that one. James Trimm's one is probably about the size of a football
So
field.
this is a good start for me.
Yeah, that's a good start, and that's all over the web. You can pick those up anywhere. In fact, Brucey, I think we've been asked to buy one, so I might have to buy another. I might have to buy a couple. So if you hang 5, I'll have a look at our funds, because our funds took a hit with Rabbi coming out. So I'm just a bit reserved about spending anything at the moment, but we'll see if we can maybe get 5 of those ones.
Turn this off.
Yeah, I'll come and turn that off. Alright, let's please stick around and we'll have something to eat. Thanks everybody. Baruch Hashem. Shabbat shalom.
Now you go help.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Giordano.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, Matt, I saw you put up the camera and follow me around all over the place.